There is a particular species of hypocrisy so refined, so exquisitely shameless, that it transcends mere dishonesty and becomes a kind of performance art. The Republican Party has spent decades marketing itself as the guardian of Christian virtue, the protector of children, and the scourge of coastal elites and their decadent ways. It now finds itself defending a president whose social calendar once prominently featured a convicted child sex trafficker, and whose administration spent the better part of a year attempting to suppress the documentary evidence of that association. The photographs released last Friday by House Democrats tell a story requiring no elaborate interpretation. There is Donald Trump flanked by 6 women whose faces have been redacted, wearing Hawaiian leis at one of those gatherings where the wealthy congratulate themselves on their wealth. There is Trump again, standing beside Epstein at a social event, the posture of comfortable familiarity unmistakable. And there is Trump seated next to a blonde woman, face also redacted, on what appears to be a private aircraft. These images emerge from a collection of more than 95,000 photographs obtained from the Epstein estate, of which Democrats have so far reviewed perhaps a quarter. Some of the other photos that we did not put out today are incredibly disturbing, Representative Robert Garcia noted. What incredibly disturbing might mean in a context already this sordid is a question best left to the imagination, or perhaps not. Among the items found among Epstein's effects was a bowl of novelty condoms bearing the president's face, priced at $4.50 apiece, each bearing the inscription, "I'm huge." These photographs join a growing archive of documentation. The Birthday Book, released by Congress in September, offers a window into the culture Epstein cultivated among his associates, a culture so saturated in predatory entitlement that its participants apparently felt comfortable committing their proclivities to paper and binding them in leather as a keepsake. Contributors included Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, Les Wexner, and dozens of others, a bipartisan collection of the powerful and the compromised. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's procurer, and now a convicted sex trafficker serving 20 years, compiled the volume and solicited contributions from the great and the good. She asked for drawings, photos, or stories. She received them. The contents are instructive. One page features a drawing of Epstein in 1983, handing lollipops to a group of young girls, juxtaposed with a 2003 image of an older Epstein receiving massages from topless women, one of whom bears his initials tattooed on her body. The progression from children to women is presented as a joke, the arc of a successful life, rendered in crayon. Another contributor sorted entries into categories including girlfriends, children, and, note the hyphen, girlfriends. The taxonomy tells its own story. Another page, contributed by a Mar-a-Lago club member, shows a novelty check for $22,500 bearing Trump's name, accompanied by a joke about Epstein having sold a fully depreciated woman to Trump. This is the humor of predators among themselves, preserved as a memento of friendship. These men understood each other. They spoke a common language. They found the same things funny. Trump's own alleged contribution was more personal, a hand-drawn outline of a naked woman with his signature scrawled in the pubic region, accompanied by a typewritten note concluding with the valediction, "May every day be another wonderful secret." What secrets, one wonders. The Trump administration expended considerable effort ensuring we would not find out. On the campaign trail, Trump and Vance promised to release the Epstein files. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced in February that the client list was on her desk. Then, in May, Bondi briefed Trump and informed him his name appeared in the files. What followed was predictable. In July, the Justice Department announced that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. Case closed. Nothing to see here. The problem was that Trump's own supporters refused to comply. The MAGA faithful, promised revelations about Democratic depravity, found themselves confronting stonewalling from their own champion. A bipartisan congressional effort forced disclosure. Trump, in a fit of pique, denounced what he called the Jeffrey Epstein hoax on Truth Social, castigating the stupid and foolish Republicans who continued to press the matter. One is reminded of the gangster who, having been caught, blames the police for their persistence. The Epstein Files Transparency Act passed the House 427-1. Trump signed it, having no choice, and immediately claimed credit for the disclosure he had fought to prevent. The emails released last month contained a particularly arresting detail that has received insufficient attention. Epstein himself had written that "The dog that hasn't barked is Trump," and mentioned that Trump had spent hours with one of the victims. Consider the implications of this phrase. In the Sherlock Holmes story from which it derives, the dog that didn't bark was significant precisely because its silence indicated complicity. The intruder was someone the dog knew and therefore did not raise an alarm against. Epstein, surveying the wreckage of his social circle as former associates scrambled to distance themselves, observed that Trump alone had escaped scrutiny. Why? What kept the dog quiet? Epstein's phrasing suggests not merely that Trump was uninvolved in his crimes, but that Trump possessed some special immunity, some reason why the usual alarm bells did not sound in his case. This is not the language of casual acquaintance. This is not the vocabulary of two men who, as Trump has repeatedly claimed, had a falling out in the early 2000s and thereafter maintained no meaningful contact. This is the testimony of a dead man who evidently believed he possessed information that could damage the future president, and who, for whatever reason, chose not to deploy it. The question of what Epstein knew and why he found Trump's silence noteworthy is one the Department of Justice appears curiously uninterested in answering. When confronted with the Wall Street Journal's reporting on his birthday contribution, Trump adopted the strategy he applies to all inconvenient facts: denial, litigation, and the insistence that reality itself is a conspiracy against him. He sued the Journal for $10 billion. Vice President Vance called the story complete and utter bullshit. Yet when the Epstein estate produced the actual document in response to a congressional subpoena, there it was. The drawing, the signature, the cryptic reference to shared secrets. The White House pivoted to claiming the signature was not authentic, a position requiring one to believe that Epstein or Maxwell forged Trump's handwriting for inclusion in a private birthday album never intended for public consumption. The explanation is not merely implausible, it is insulting. What we are witnessing is the decomposition of a political movement's moral pretensions in real time. This is the party that impeached Bill Clinton for lying about an extramarital affair, that built its electoral coalition on family values, that thundered from pulpits and podiums about the sexual predations of Hollywood liberals and Democratic donors. This is the party whose members have spent years promoting the QAnon fantasy of a Democratic pedophile ring operating from pizza parlor basements, whose representatives have accused their opponents of grooming children through education policy, whose base has been trained to see sexual deviance lurking behind every progressive initiative. Jerry Falwell's moral majority, Pat Robertson's Christian coalition, the endless jeremiads against the moral decay of the coastal elites, all of it, we are now asked to believe, was merely prelude to the defense of a man who drew naked women for Jeffrey Epstein and signed his name in the pubic region. The party of family values now argues that photographs of their leader socializing with a pedophile are a Democrat trap, as if Democrats had somehow compelled Trump to attend these parties, sign this birthday book, and maintain this friendship until it became inconvenient. Steve Bannon, Trump's former chief strategist, appears in the newly released photographs posing with Epstein in front of a mirror. Bill Gates stands with the now titleless Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The web of connections spreads outward, implicating figures across the political spectrum. Yet only one party has made the suppression of this information a matter of official policy. The deeper scandal is not merely that Trump knew Epstein, or socialized with him, or contributed to his birthday book. Many people did these things, and while such associations reflect poorly on one's judgment, they do not necessarily imply participation in Epstein's crimes. The scandal is the cover-up, the systematic effort by the executive branch to suppress information about the president's past, the weaponization of the Justice Department to block disclosure, and the transformation of a law enforcement matter into an exercise in political protection. Judge Tanya Chutkan has now ordered expedited processing of a Freedom of Information Act request, seeking to determine whether Bondi misled the American people, and whether the DOJ reversed course out of a desire to cover up the content within. History teaches us that cover-ups tend to be more damaging than the underlying conduct they seek to conceal. Nixon did not fall because of a third-rate burglary, he fell because of the cover-up. Trump's administration has constructed its own, a chasm between its promises of transparency and its practice of obstruction, and into that gap will pour the speculations and suspicions that always flourish where sunlight is forbidden. What did the president know? What did he do? What is he hiding? These questions will persist regardless of whether the files ultimately reveal criminal conduct or merely embarrassing associations. The administration's behavior has ensured that no exoneration, however complete, will be fully believed. The photographs released last Friday show us something we already knew, but perhaps preferred not to see so clearly: that power protects itself, that wealth insulates its possessors from accountability, and that the men who thundered loudest about draining the swamp were themselves up to their necks in it. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, by his own hand, according to official findings. His victims remain alive, many still waiting for the justice they were promised. The files exist, sitting in government vaults, containing information that the American public has a right to see. The deadline for the Justice Department to comply with the Transparency Act is December 19th. The party of law and order, the party of Christian values, the party of protecting children, look upon these photographs, these documents, this record of evasion and obstruction, and ask yourself what any of those phrases mean coming from these people, at this moment, in this context. The answer, I submit, is precisely nothing, and they know it.